Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about finding the area of a sector. So a sector is just a portion of a circle. So first we have to remember, how do we find the area of a circle? Area of a circle, area equals the radius squared times pi. So our whole area is going to be that. Now, when we go to find the area of the sector, here's where it's a good idea to write down some notes. The area of a sector is part over whole equals degrees over 360. So essentially we're just setting up a proportion with two ratios here. So we're looking for the part of the area over the whole area, and then the degrees that we have over 360. So what do I mean by that? Well, looking at this guy, let's first figure out what our area is. It's 9 centimeter radius. So our area is 9 squared times pi, which gives us 81 pi, okay? And that's technically centimeters squared, of course, but we won't use the centimeters in the next part. So what we'll do is set up our proportion now. We have part over whole equals degrees over 360. So we got our 360 in there. Now let's go ahead and put in our degrees, and it looks like it's 120 degrees for this area. So and we're finding the area that's within this bolded shape. So now, before we even do this part of it, the part over the whole, I think it's a good idea to reduce your fraction. So let's lob off some zeros. And then if you divide the top by 12, we get 1. Divide the bottom by 12, we get 3. So what we really have now is part over whole equals 1 over 3. So this is asking, what is the part of the area? And the part of the area is on the top here. The whole area is 81 pi. Okay, so now what we want to do is, when you have fraction equals fraction, this is the best because you can cross multiply. X times 3 gives me 3x equals 81 pi times 1 is 81 pi. Now we want to get that x by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by 3. And we get x equals, and if you look, 81 divided by 3, 27, yeah, 27 pi. But the reason I have this up on the screen now is, so the exact answer is 27 pi, and then don't forget centimeters we're talking about, so centimeters squared. This is our exact answer. Now, if we wanted to estimate that answer, we would take that and we would say, okay, 27 times, and you use the pi button, don't just use 3.14. So we say pi, which is going to be shift, and then the pi button here, and we get 84.82, so approximately 84.82 centimeters squared. Okay, let's try one more of those. Let's look at this guy right here. It's a 20-inch radius, and it's 225 degrees for the sector that we are finding the area of. So again, we want to find the whole area. And so our area is the radius, which is 20, squared times pi. So area equals 400 pi, and that will be inches squared. Now we're going to do part over whole. So part over whole equals degrees over 360. So this time we're doing this area in here where the arrow indicates. So that's 225. Okay, so I can't lob off zeros, but I can divide by 5. So if we do 225 divided by 5, I end up with 45. And if I do 360 divided by 5, I end up with 72. Both of those are divisible by 9. If we divide by 9, we get 5. Divide by 9, we get 8. Okay, so now we're ready. We've got part over whole equals 5 over 8, because that's as reduced as that's going to get. So we have the part that we're looking for, and then the whole goes on the bottom. And our whole part, that doesn't sound right. Our whole, that portion of this is 400 pi. So we have 400 pi, so x over 400 pi. Okay, so we're going to cross multiply, so we get 8x equals, and then we have 400 times 5, which gives us 2000 pi, divide by 8, divide by 8, to get that x by itself, right? We're solving for x. So when I do that, I end up with x equals 250 pi. Divide this by 8, you get 1. Divide this by 8, you get 250. So we have 250 pi, and don't forget we're talking about inches squared. So the area of that sector is 250 pi inches squared, the exact area. Now, when we have 250 up here, we're going to times it by our pi button, and we get 785.3. So we're going to round up, we're going to say 0.4. So x equals, or is approximately 785 and 4/10 inches squared. Okay, one more example so that you can see when it gets a little bit tricky. Let's talk about if we have something that looks like this, and this is example number 3. I forgot to write that down. So this one's a little bit different in that we have to figure out the area of this shaded bit, right? So we know that this is 73 degrees, and we also know that this is 73 degrees because these tick marks indicate that they are congruent. We also know that because this straight line is going through our center, and it is a straight line, so assuming that it is a straight line, it is 180 degrees. So we know this bit right in here, draw an arrow, that's 180 degrees, which means this whole bit is also 180 degrees. But if we do 180 minus 73 minus another 73, we end up with 34. So right in here, that is 34. So now we figured out the degrees of all of our various angles that we have in this circle. And we want to do the shaded ones. So if we say, okay, let's do, oh, and I forgot to include that this was 5 yards radius. I'm sorry, I forgot to include that part. So what we're going to do first is find our whole area. So the area equals 5 squared times pi. And that is 25 pi yards squared. Okay, so there's our whole area. Now we're ready to use our part over whole equals degrees over 360. So part over whole equals degrees over 360. Now the degrees is what's the fun part, because to do this shaded bit, we're going to do 180 and 34. Add those together, that gives us 214. So let's go ahead and cut these guys in half because they're both divisible by 2. So that's going to be 107 and 180. And 107, 3 doesn't go into that, 5 doesn't go into it. None of those other ones. So this is probably as reduced as it's going to get. So we have 107 and 180. Okay, so now we want the part of the circle that is shaded. And we have our whole circumference, or I'm sorry, not circumference, our whole area to be 25 pi. So we have 25 pi, and this is x. So we can cross multiply. 180x equals, and now I'm not going to multiply 107 by 25 because I want to show you this, but it is 107 times 25 times pi, right? We're multiplying all those things together. Divide this by 180 and divide this by 180. Now the reason I didn't multiply it together is because I can take 25, divide that by 5, I get 5. And then 180 and I divide that by 5 and I get 36. Okay, I don't think I can reduce that any further because 36 and 107, there's not really anything that I can think of that goes into 107. So what we do is we take 107, we multiply that by 5. So we get x equals 535 pi over 36. 535 pi over 36. Sorry, my scribbling out there when I was practicing earlier. So x equals 5. So our exact answer is 535 pi over 36. And remember, we're talking about yards. So yards squared. That's our exact answer. Now, to get our decimal, we're going to say 535 and we're going to multiply that by pi, the pi button. When we hit equals, you got to do that. Otherwise, your order of operations will mess it up. Then we're going to divide by 36. So take that and divide by 36, and we end up with 46.69, we'll say. So 46 and 69 hundredths yards squared. X is approximately that for the area. Hopefully this helps you figure out finding the area of the sector, and we'll see you next time.